Hansel and Gretel.
Once upon a time, in a tiny cottage in the forest, there lived two children, Hansel and Gretel. They lived with their father, who was a woodcutter, and their stepmother. One night, when Hansel woke up, he heard his stepmother talking in the next room.
There's not enough food. You and I will starve to death if we keep feeding those children.
Hansel sneaked out of the house.
She's going to throw us out in the woods. What should I do?
Just at that moment, a white pebble shone in the moonlight.
Oh, that's it.
The next morning, the stepmother said,
Children, let's go out to the forest to cut some woods.
Hansel, following his stepmother, dropped white little pebbles he had found at night one by one.
Children, I'll go there to cut down the trees.
The stepmother left the children alone and went back home. The forest soon grew dark.
Hansel, why isn't Mother coming back?
Wait a little, Gretel.
When the moon was full, Hansel and Gretel followed the pebbles to get to the house.
You guys are back safely.
Unlike the happy father, the stepmother frowned at the children.
How did you find your way home?
We followed the pebbles that Hansel had dropped shining in the moonlight.
That evening, Hansel, rubbing his sleepy eyes, got up to gather the pebbles again. But the door was already locked. In the next morning, the stepmother woke the children up.
Are you kids going to sleep all day long? We should go cut down the trees. Here, take this loaf of bread. Don't eat the whole thing at once.
Hansel dropped the crumbs behind him to mark the way. The stepmother took the children to a deeper forest than the last time.
Just stay here and don't go anywhere.
She went straight back home.
Hansel, what should we do?
Don't worry, Gretel. I left a trail of crumbs.
However, the hungry birds in the forest already had eaten up the crumbs on the ground. In the meantime, there appeared a white bird in front of the children. Hansel and Gretel followed the bird.
Hansel, don't you smell something tasty?
Near them, there stood a house made of cookies and chocolate. The two children began to eat pieces of candies right off the cottage. It was then that they heard a voice.
What are you doing here?
Yum! These children look so delicious.
The old woman was a witch who liked to eat children. The witch locked Hansel up in the storage.
Hey, little girl. Why don't you bring some nice food for your brother?
The witch was thinking of cooking Hansel when he got fat.
Dear little boy, let me see your finger.
Then Hansel stuck out a piece of chicken bone. Because the witch had such bad eyesight, she didn't notice that it was a chicken bone.
I need to make him fatter to cook him.
One day, the witch said,
Oh, I can't wait any longer. I'd better eat him right now.
The witch shouted to Gretel.
Hey, light a fire in the stove.
When the stove was heated, Gretel asked,
Grandmother, how do you open this?
You don't even know that?
The witch pushed Gretel away and opened the stove. Then Gretel pushed the witch into the stove and closed it.
I'm burning! Ah! Let's go home! Hurry!
When Hansel and Gretel came back, Father greeted them gladly. Father had been living alone after stepmother left the house. Hansel and Gretel, with their father, lived happily ever after.